So my name is Liam Weaver. I'm a Transportation Project Coordinator for the Public Advocate's Office. Great. Yeah. So I think honestly, it's a plethora, a portfolio of things that have really helped California to accelerate EV adoption. I think it's just a combination of state governments, municipalities, utilities, auto equipment manufacturers. You just kind of get this exposure every day that everyone in the industry from all different aspects are really working on this. And so I think there's not one catch-all solution. There can't be one person that really moves it. I think it's just a combination of everyone working together that's really helped California to adopt EVs so quickly in the last few years. Yeah, and so every state, every country has its own political environment and own culture, and I think that there's definitely different things that will work better in different situations. But at the end of the day, I think in success in places like California will really speak to these other states and other countries. So if we're able to do this right and to ramp up EVs in a way that's not only beneficial for the grid and the environment, but it's beneficial for people who are the ones driving the vehicles, I think that's going to be really important. Yeah, so I think technology is definitely advancing, and charging times are getting lower, range is getting higher in electric vehicles. I do think that there is something inherently different about the way that you may charge an electric vehicle versus how you may fuel up a gas vehicle, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that it can be a beneficial thing. So if we kind of think about charging or fueling in a little bit of a different way, as a different experience, I think it could really help in how we address problems like range anxiety. In other words, the majority of people's travel is not necessarily these long trips that are always range anxiety inducing. So, your daily commute and things like that, all of that is really beneficial if you use something like workplace charging, where you park your car at work and then when you leave work your car is completely charged. You didn't even go to a gas station, right? And so if people's vehicles are parked 90% of the time that they own them, then that's 90% of the time that they can be being charged. So I think if we think about fueling in a different way, then the fast charging technology definitely has its place, for travel and for long trips. But I think that ultimately we can kind of shift our fueling habits to accommodate for electric vehicles. Yeah, definitely. So I think that these big, oil companies definitely see the opportunity, as well as the shift here in terms of electric vehicles. So I think it's definitely a smart investment that they're making, and I think that we'll continue to see more of that in the future. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a couple of different things regarding load, the increase in load from EVs. I'd say that one thing that we have seen, or that's been a lot of talk in the last few years, is actually load decrease, load fallout, and that's due to a number of different things. It's due to solar storage. It's due to energy efficiency. Community choice aggregators. There's a lot of different things that have actually caused electricity use to decrease, particularly in California. And so I think EVs have the potential to somewhat balance that out. But then as we see in the future, it could actually increase it significantly as well. So I think what's going to be really important is managed charging, smart charging. You'll hear that a lot. But also being smart about smart charging. So for example, there's some software that you can take into account. Say if you have a really smartly priced rate for your electric vehicle, some sort of time of use rate. As soon as the off-peak pricing kicks in, a lot of this software is designed to immediately begin the charging. And so you would think of that as great because you're following the path, minimizing the peak load. But in reality, if all of the vehicles are designed in that way, then you're going to see a new enormous peak at that time. So these are just things that we need to think about, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity for smart charging to help accommodate for the increased load. Yeah, so vehicle to grid is definitely a fun topic to talk about, to experiment with, to pilot, and no one can really know what the future will be for V2G. I think if we continue, I think something was mentioned today, if we continue throwing all these different aspects of EVs as additional potential burdens, then I think it's less likely that people will be on board. But if once the case of V2G becomes easy and economic, then I think that absolutely we could see a huge uptake in that. And just to kind of close that loop, people don't necessarily want to burn gasoline. They don't necessarily want to burn coal for their energy. It's just a matter of having mobility and having things like warmth. And so if we can integrate something like V2G or electric vehicles in people's lives in a way that provides the mobility that they need and the comfort and the economics, then I think there's opportunity for all of these things. Yeah, so as far as autonomous vehicles go, I think that, obviously it's another one of the transportation revolutions that everyone's talking about. I do think that it's very different from electric vehicles in that it's, addressing different problems and the idea behind electric vehicles is hugely focused on the air quality impacts, the greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and so I think that there's this big push from a sort of a social environmental aspect for electric vehicles, and I think a lot of people are making similar cases for autonomous vehicles in terms of safety and access. So I guess we'll see a little bit more about what kind of case they can provide for the social benefit of autonomous vehicles. But as far as accelerating adoption, I think it's similar to how a lot of things work, in that if you've ever read the classic book The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, there's just various things where as things come together in a certain way, and as there's momentum, and as people are all working on different aspects of something, then eventually you do reach a tipping point where suddenly it's the only thing anyone's ever known is electric vehicles or autonomous vehicles. So yeah.